Welcome to episode 87 of your CySA Plus Prepcast. In this episode, we examine a critical issue in cybersecurity risk management: end-of-life and legacy components. These outdated systems and software are still found in many organizations and pose serious security risks due to the absence of vendor support, missing security updates, and incompatible configurations with modern security standards. Understanding how to detect, manage, and replace these components is a crucial responsibility for cybersecurity analysts. This episode aligns directly with your CySA Plus exam preparation and strengthens your practical skills in identifying and mitigating operational vulnerabilities stemming from obsolete technologies. Let's begin by clarifying what end-of-site means in a cybersecurity context. An end-of-life component refers to any software, hardware, or platform that is no longer supported by the original vendor. When a vendor discontinues support, it stops releasing updates, patches, or security fixes for the product. This lack of maintenance turns the component into a permanent liability, as it becomes increasingly vulnerable to new threats that will never be remediated. As time progresses, these components accumulate more known vulnerabilities, which adversaries can easily discover and exploit using publicly available tools or published vulnerability databases. Closely related to end-of-life technologies are legacy components, systems or software still in use despite being outdated. These legacy systems often run on older operating systems, rely on deprecated protocols, or require insecure configurations to remain functional. They might still fulfill important business functions, but they do so without the protections offered by modern cybersecurity practices. Legacy systems often lack features like built-in encryption, strong authentication, or audit logging. This makes them difficult to secure and even harder to monitor effectively using contemporary security tools. Together, end-of-selection and legacy components create an expanding attack surface. The longer these components remain operational without updates, the more susceptible they become to malware, exploitation frameworks, and advanced persistent threats. Analysts must understand that these systems degrade over time, not because their functionality diminishes, but because their security posture becomes increasingly obsolete. Attackers frequently scan networks for these outdated elements, seeking unpatched services, outdated web servers, or unsupported firmware versions to use as points of entry. From a threat perspective, these components are low-hanging fruit for adversaries. Once discovered, attackers can use well-documented exploits to bypass defenses and gain access to broader network resources. Security researchers and criminal groups alike publish exploit details and proof-of-concept code targeting unsupported systems. Analysts must treat EOL and legacy components as active vulnerabilities, not merely technical debt. Risk increases exponentially if these components connect to critical infrastructure or store sensitive data without adequate compensating controls in place. To effectively manage these risks, analysts begin with a comprehensive and up-to-date asset inventory. Inventory management is the foundation for detecting EOL and legacy components. Without visibility into what systems and software are present in the environment, organizations cannot protect what they do not know exists. Automated asset discovery tools and vulnerability scanners are instrumental in maintaining awareness. These tools identify outdated operating systems, unsupported applications, and components that no longer receive patches or security advisories. Another essential reason to track EOL and legacy systems is compliance. Many regulatory frameworks prohibit or strongly discourage the use of unsupported technologies. For instance, using end-of-life systems may violate PCI DSS requirements for secure configurations or HIPAA mandates for risk management. Analysts must assess how the continued use of legacy components affects the organization's legal obligations. So, there are particularly prominent components that affect the organization's legal obligation. Failing to do so can result in regulatory penalties, failed audits, or legal exposure due to preventable data breaches stemming from insecure systems. Modern cybersecurity tools such as software composition analysis platforms allow analysts to dig deeper into legacy risks. These tools scan applications and systems for outdated libraries, deprecated frameworks, and unsupported software dependencies. They help analysts correlate identified risks with known CVEs and provide actionable intelligence on remediation options. Asset management platforms, when integrated with vulnerability databases, create a live view of technological obsolescence that can be continuously monitored and updated. Analysts use a risk-based approach to prioritize which EOL or legacy components need to be addressed first. Systems that are internet-facing, handle regulated data, or connect to critical business functions take precedence. These are evaluated based on exposure, sensitivity of the data processed, the number of known vulnerabilities, and whether compensating controls can provide adequate interim protection. Legacy systems that operate in isolated or read-only roles may be lower risk, but they are still assessed for potential indirect threat vectors. Other key concern is compatibility. Legacy components often lack support for modern encryption protocols, secure coding frameworks, or identity and access management systems. Analysts must identify these incompatibilities and work to address them through either configuration changes or the introduction of additional controls. Where outright replacement is not immediately feasible, options like hardening the system, restricting access, and removing unnecessary services are deployed to limit exposure. Documenting the presence and management of EOL and legacy components is essential. Analysts maintain detailed records of where these components exist, what vulnerabilities are associated with them, what compensating controls have been applied, and what plans are in place for future upgrades or decommissioning. This documentation supports transparency and accountability across technical and executive teams, ensuring that decisions around legacy systems are tracked and evaluated continuously. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Mitigating the risks associated with end-of-life and legacy components begins with proactive transition planning. Analysts work closely with IT operations, procurement teams, and business stakeholders to evaluate current dependencies and schedule secure replacements. Transition plans consider technical requirements, user impact, data migration strategies, and integration challenges. Replacing legacy systems is rarely instantaneous, but analysts ensure there is a structured, time-bound approach that steadily reduces exposure and aligns with organizational security goals. In many cases, immediate replacement of a legacy system may not be possible due to cost, complexity, or critical application dependencies. In such scenarios, analysts implement compensating controls designed to reduce the system's exposure and contain potential risks. These controls may include restricting the system's access to internal resources, limiting user permissions, disabling non-essential services, and enforcing strict authentication methods. Network segmentation is frequently used to isolate high-risk systems from the broader environment. Patch management remains an essential strategy, even for legacy systems. While official vendor support may be unavailable, analysts still search for available hotfixes, third-party updates, or community-maintained patches. Applying these updates when available can significantly reduce known vulnerabilities. In parallel, analysts document the lack of vendor support and assess the risk each unpatchable system introduces to the organization. When security updates cannot be applied, these risks are tracked in the vulnerability management system with corresponding compensating controls. Legacy systems are also often placed on segmented or dedicated networks to reduce the likelihood of compromise spreading. By limiting network communication to only essential traffic, analysts reduce the risk that an attacker could pivot from a legacy system to a production database or internal management server. This segmentation often includes the use of internal firewalls, strict routing rules, and physical or logical network isolation enforced at the switch or hypervisor level. Security technologies can be used to bolster protections for legacy systems. Analysts may deploy intrusion detection systems to monitor for suspicious activity around EOL components. Network access control mechanisms enforce device authentication before allowing communication. Web application firewalls can block malicious traffic directed at legacy web applications. Endpoint protection platforms offer additional defense through real-time scanning, anomaly detection, and exploit prevention techniques. Though not a substitute for replacement, these tools provide layered security while transition plans are underway. Continuous monitoring practices are critical for tracking legacy systems and detecting potential attacks. Analysts configure monitoring platforms to flag unusual behavior, such as unauthorized access attempts, traffic spikes, or anomalous system calls that may indicate exploitation. These insights enable early response and help prevent minor incidents from escalating. Logs from these systems feed into centralized SIM platforms for correlation with other threat indicators across the organization. Communication is another vital aspect of legacy component risk management. Analysts maintain ongoing dialogue with stakeholders, including compliance teams, department leaders, and executive sponsors. They explain the nature of identified risks, describe planned mitigations, and provide timelines for replacement or remediation. This ensures alignment between technical teams and organizational leadership, helping to prioritize legacy system upgrades as part of broader digital transformation efforts. Risk assessments tailored to EOL and legacy components provide clear insights into potential business impact and legal consequences. These assessments consider asset value, threat landscape, availability of alternative solutions, and effectiveness of existing controls. Risk findings are documented and presented to decision-makers to justify investment in modernization projects or to reinforce the urgency of retiring outdated infrastructure. Analyst expertise is essential in maintaining secure operations while legacy systems remain active. Ongoing training in legacy risk management, secure migration methodologies, and control implementation ensures analysts are equipped to manage these challenges effectively. Courses, industry briefings, and cross-functional workshops help maintain awareness of emerging threats targeting unsupported technologies and reinforce practical skills for mitigation. Finally, documenting legacy component management efforts is essential for compliance and operational continuity. Analysts create records that include risk rankings, control justifications, patch availability, isolation strategies, upgrade roadmaps, and responsible personnel. These records serve as audit evidence and support knowledge transfer during staff transitions. Comprehensive documentation ensures that legacy system risks are understood, actively managed, and not forgotten over time. To conclude episode 87, we've seen that the risks posed by end-of-life and legacy components are among the most persistent and underestimated in cybersecurity. Analysts play a critical role in identifying these systems, implementing short-term mitigations, and guiding organizations towards secure, modern alternatives. Through proactive inventory management, compensating control deployment, monitoring, communication, and ongoing education, analysts protect organizational assets and maintain regulatory compliance. This topic is central to your CySA Plus exam preparation and will remain relevant throughout your cybersecurity career. Continue applying these strategies as we move toward the next core domain in this Prepcast journey. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.